Yo, what is going on, guys? My name is Russ. Just a quick late night video for you guys. Gonna be pretty raw and unedited, but I did want to make a quick guide on how to do the Mage Tower since they just came into the game. I wanted to get it out as quickly as possible, especially as I have kind of an inkling that maybe Blizzard will nerf these a bit. They're very tightly tuned, but I thought I'd make this to maybe help people out who want to try and attempt it before it gets pre-nerfed, or like before it gets nerfed, hopefully. So I thought that I would just give like a quick walkthrough guide of how I do things. There's another video coming alongside this, which is a bit more of like my adventure doing it and stuff like that. A bit more of like a storytelling comedic take on it, I guess. So I'll upload that in a couple of days' time. But I did want to just kind of like make a walkthrough video, basically. So I thought I'd just go through footage of various stages of the fight and how I dealt with them and how I kind of learned to deal with them over time and the strategy that I eventually settled with. So I'll jump straight into it. These are talents that I'm going to run. I'm going to put them on screen for you now. Kind of a mixture of single target and AoE is basically the raid build that I talked about in my previous video, except we are going to take Shuriken Storm, and the reason we take that is for the ads in the last phase, but you can also get some damage out of it in the first phase. Damage is not that important in the first phase. It's much better to focus on your healing and things. So I've taken the talent which makes my Shuriken Storm slow things which it hits, and I'm also going to be running Crippling Poison in the last phase as well, and I believe those stack, which really helps with slowing down the Voidwalkers when you get to those. And a really big one for phase 1 is a Soothing Darkness talent, where every second that you're in Shadow Dance, you're going to be gaining 3% of your health back. Very important. Obviously, with Enveloping Shadows, we're going to be in Shadow Dance a lot, which means we get loads of self-healing from this talent, and you'll see, or you'll discover quite quickly, that the first phase really hurts, so you're going to want as much sustain as you can get. So let's now go through a play-by-play of the fight. I'm going to start in phase 1 with Instant Poison and Numbing Poison. The reason I go with Numbing Poison is just because it's going to slow down his casts. He casts a lot of abilities, so having 10% reduced cast speed on all of those is going to be helpful, and there's no real better option to use in this phase, so just go with that one. I do, however, switch to Crippling Poison in the second phase, and that is to deal with the Voidwalkers, which I'll explain later on. So the fight's going to start. Want to open from stealth, Shadow Strike him, slice and dice him, and then you can just pop all your cooldowns, go ham for a few seconds. He will TP away quite quickly. One thing I do is kick him on the first Frostbolt cast or the second, and try and move him towards the middle of the room. Now I'm going to keep doing this, as you'll notice throughout the fight. And the reason I do this is essentially so there's less distance that I have to run while he's just sitting there frostbolting me every time he TPs away, because he usually TPs away to the opposite side of the room. Sometimes you can get lucky and he can teleport just to a quadrant that's next to you, if you imagine the room split into 4 quadrants by these pink beams. And one extra thing to note is that when he does entomb you in these like ice prisons, it makes like a circle around you of the ice shards. And you kind of want to position yourself, taking that into account. And these ice shards, you want to kind of like be next to a beam so that you can kind of like position where they're going to spawn. You want to know where they're going to spawn, which is going to be important for the next part, where he's going to stun you and you're going to shadow step like an ice shard furthest away out of that prison, so you can shadow step it and it will TP you out of the ring, and then you run over to him, right? So previously I was trying to like position myself as close to that big pink ball in the middle as I could, but then I later realized that it's actually better to position myself near one of the pink lines, but I want to be able to shadow step away and then run over to him. And it's also really important that when you are running over to him and you're running through these pink beams, you have to jump as you get to them, and then they'll just push you, but if you don't jump, they do damage. So it's really weird, but just one thing to note, make sure you're always jumping through the pink beams and not just running through them. I got caught off guard a few times by that before I realized that you apparently have to jump. It still can be quite annoying because they push you and sometimes they pull you and sometimes they push you, and I don't really know why they do one or the other, but you just want to make sure that you do jump through them and you at least not get damaged, but you don't want to get sucked into that pink ball in the middle. So this first phase, I guess you can consider kind of like 2 phases of the first, this is like phase 1, and then there's like 2 parts, and then they become, everything at the same time. So the first phase, I guess you call it the frost phase. He's just gonna frostbolt you and do the entombment and teleport away. So you have to just keep shadow stepping out, running over to him and doing that. Try and save your shadow dances for healing, because your damage doesn't really matter that much in this phase. Like, do as much damage as you can, but try and use your shadow dances for healing. And pretty much one thing that I did, you can Crimson Vial whenever, but I always made a habit of Crimson Vialing after he put the Frost Entombment in me, and then I'd have to run over to him. As I was jumping through the pink beams, that is when I would pop my Crimson Vial. So I'd be jumping over to him, running through the beams, and popping the Crimson Vial. And when I get to him, you can either shadow step to get to him, but sometimes that left me without a shadow step charge when the prison came again. So I just kind of got out of a habit of shadow stepping him. I shadow stepped out the prison, and then I ran over to him. Sometimes I'd shadow step him, sometimes I wouldn't. Depends like how my charges were doing, right? And then as soon as I got to him, I would kick the frostbolt again and pull him back towards the middle of the room. And because I'd been standing in the middle of the room before, all the old ice shards would be there, and I could be in range for shuriken storms. So I'd use those shuriken storms to get 6 combo points each time, and I would just funnel damage into him that way. That's also where Shuriken Tornado can come in handy in the first phase as well, because if it's up, you might as well pull him over to the shards. And then like I just stood near the pink ball, and then I would Shuriken Tornado and just funnel a bunch of damage into him. It's just like makes the fight a little bit quicker, but it's by no means like a thing that you absolutely have to do. But there is a kind of added benefit to it as well, because if you're using your Shuriken Storm to get more combo points, then your Shadow Dance stacks are going to be resetting quicker, right? Because you're going through more combo points per second, I guess, which means that you're going to have more Shadow Dances, which means that you have more self-healing. And self-healing in this phase is really, really a big thing. Sometimes you can fall behind and you just feel like you can't really catch back up with just Crimson Vial and just the Shadow Dances that you have. So you just want to optimize like having as much Shadow Dance as you can, and also like trying to interrupt as many of his casts as possible. You can use cheap shots, you can use kidney shots. I was doing that a lot more towards the beginning, but then as I got better at kind of like optimizing my Shadow Dance usage, I ended up just throwing a kidney shot, like a 6-point kidney shot on him like every now and then, just so that like he would just cast less frostbolts at me for like 6 seconds or so, right? And then I'd always save my interrupt for like moving him. I would save my interrupt, like my actual kick, for moving him by kicking the frostbolt or by kicking the channel he does in the second phase. So that's the first phase of the first part of the first phase. Then he's going to do this intermission phase where he's going to disappear and he's going to TP away, and all these like mirror images are going to spawn, right? Now you know where he is because you need to like spin your camera, and he's going to be like a little sparkly essence in the distance. You can't, you have to like squint your eyes a little bit, but if you see, you have to just like look around for these sparkles and then be really, really quick. Now what I was doing before is you can kill the mirror images and they'll put like a little bubble shield that looks like an anti-magic zone on the ground that will heal you to fall and mean that you don't take damage for a bit, but you get slowed, and like it's really, really slow to like walk across the room killing a mirror image and the mirror image and the mirror image. And one thing that I found out that I didn't know before is that if you take too long in this phase, he does just do like a big eruption and he wipes you. So you want to be as quick as you can doing this phase. Now there's a few ways that you can go about it. You can kind of like walk across killing the mirror images one by one, but you need quite good damage for this, and you need to interrupt them or kidney shot them or something like that, and just like get hurt, run to the next, heal up, run to the next, heal up, run to the next, heal up. But it's a bit risky. There's another way where you could obviously shadow step between them. So you can either like just try and like double shadow step across the room or something like that. But the way I found actually worked best was to just, as soon as like, as you get more, pulls on the fight, you're going to know kind of like when he phases. And I think the first time is like around 60 to 65%, something like that. Like as soon as I saw the mirror images come down, I would pop sprint and I would spin my camera, and usually he goes like directly opposite the room from where you are. So like most of the time he does that, but sometimes he'll go either to the left or to the right. But like I would just pop sprint, spin my camera, and just run and jump through the beams again, and just like look for the shimmer and just sprint at him. And usually I would get there before the slow even like hit me, or like the slow would hit me. The slow would start slowing me when I was only like 5 yards away from him or something like that. Each time that he does this intermission, your sprint should be back up unless your damage is really, really, really good, in which case you might have like 5 seconds left on it. But if that's the case, you can like intentionally stall like the phase so that you have your sprint back up. If you don't, you can always use cloak. So sometimes I had really good damage on some of the pulls, so I'd sprint the first intermission, I would just run with cloak on the second intermission, and then I would sprint the third one. So that's the intermission. you're going to have to deal with that 2 to 3 times, depending on your damage. So after the first intermission, he will go into the Arcane phase. Now, he just casts this Arcane Barrage at you. This one doesn't really do that much damage, unlike the Frostbolt, which really, really claps. So in this phase, you don't really have to worry about kicking that ability. You want to be saving your kick for when he kind of like channels into the Leyline Beam. The longer that you leave him channeling, he's going to be gaining these stacks, which increase the damage he does for, I think, the rest of the fight, or they might fall off eventually. But either way, it's bad news. You want to kick that thing as soon as possible. Usually it's quite easy to predict. He will do it after the first like barrage he does. So he will channel, he'll turn a direction, and then he'll like fire these like orbs at you. And they will go in a line. So what I do is I just turn to face the orbs, and then I can just strafe left and right, and dodge them like that. He will usually cast them, although I have had him bug out a couple times where he would face one direction and then the orbs would come from a different direction. Usually he turns to face the direction that he's going to throw the orbs. So you can kind of look at that, but don't always trust it. Just look for the direction and the orbs are moving, and then like realign yourself, spin your camera so that you're facing the orbs, so you can just go left and right. So that's one ability of the Arcane phase. And then the second one is the channel. He'll just teleport away, and then he'll like cast Arcane Barrage at you, and then occasionally he'll channel into the middle. That's the one you need to kick. So then he's going to do the transition or the intermission again, and then you'll be back into the Frost phase, but this time he'll also have the Arcane abilities. So he will be basically doing phase 1 and phase 2 at the same time, or phase 1 and phase 2 of this phase at the same time. You essentially want to deal with it just like in phase 1, except now occasionally he's going to do the Arcane Barrage orb thingies at you. Just try and make sure you're not too close to the pink beams so that you have room to actually strafe and sidestep those. But the fight is essentially all done at this point, and then you just need to live through this phase, and maybe you'll get one more intermission and maybe you won't. And then he dies at 10%, and at 10% he will do some RP and he'll run off, and then he'll summon the actual boss. Now this is where I thought this was the easy part, because like back in the day, this is just when you popped like a drums and you just went absolutely ham and you just killed the thing. But I actually found that phase 1 was the easy part this time around on the Mage Tower. And once you get used to the phase 1 part, you can walk it every time. And the second part is actually like really, really tight on DPS check. You've also got to deal with the Void Walkers, and yes, space is a big issue. So it's like you've got to have really good damage, and you've got to be positioning yourself really correctly. So as I said, you can maybe like make this part a little bit easier, but this is kind of the part of the fight that you want to gear towards. So if you do have any of that cheese gear, go ahead and slap that on, because it will be really, really good. I just did this in my like Shadowlands Mythic Plus gear with my Shadowlands Legendary, which doesn't work. I don't know if Legion Legendaries work, but someone told me they didn't, so I didn't even try them. So I literally just did this in like normal gear. So I guess I kind of proved that you can do it in like without any of this cheese strats. But what I did use is I enchanted my weapons with Lightless Force. I just found that like things that did flat damage scales really well with this Mage Tower. So I enchanted my weapons with Lightless Force, which is that thing that shoots out the waves. I put on Shadowcore Oil onto my weapons instead of Sharpening Stones. If you have like a Legion eye level neck, I think it's like 60 eye level or something, or below, you can put an enchant on it called Mark of the Hidden Satyr, which I didn't have, but I wish I did, because I remember that enchant did a lot of damage back in the day. So have a look for that one on the auction house. If you have a neck that you can put it on, just look at the tooltip. Like anything like that does flat damage will probably help you a lot in this phase. And then there was one thing which was huge, and it was called like the Potion of Unbridled Fury. And it was a BFA potion, which just does like a bunch of shadow damage, like on hit or something. And it lasts a minute. So you want to put that one on, and you want to be using that one with your drums. Make sure you bring drums. So yeah, Potion of Unbridled Fury, 2 Lightless Force enchants, 2 Shadowcore Oils, and for trinkets I used the Vial of I tried out a few. I used the Vial of Putrefaction, and I used the Titanic Ocular Gland, because in the last phase, which is obviously when the DPS matters a lot, you are like healthy for a lot of it, so you're just essentially getting that secondary stat all the time. He doesn't really do much damage. You only really take damage in the last phase when he enrages, which is at 10%, and if you stand on the floor of purple voidy stuff he does on the ground, which you shouldn't be anyway. So I'll play my footage of the kill on screen for you now, but basically you need to instantly move him over to the edge. And this boss has a really big hitbox, so he's quite hard to like position, but all you have to really do is focus on your character and like always be moving at the very last second away from the purple stuff. So you want to move him straight away as far as you can over to the wall, so your back is to the wall. And then obviously, because I'm using lightless forces, I'm trying to make sure that my character is facing him, so that I'm not like lightless forcing over into the distance. If I'm strafing at like 90 degrees or something, I want to be facing him, and I'm kind of backpedaling at a diagonal along the wall for pretty much this whole fight. One thing that I didn't mention is that you want to probably use your cooldowns on the pull of the first phase against Xylem, and then don't pop them a second time when they come back up. You want to be saving like Shadow Blades, trinkets, everything for this phase, and then you should get 2 uses in this phase. One at this very start of the phase, and then again right before the Enrage, or when you should run out of space. So what I do here is you can pop back into stealth, Shadow Strike him from stealth, slice and dice, pop my cooldowns, rupture him, and run over to the edge, like trying to hit him as I run, so strafing with him. Put my back to the wall, and then he's gonna like pop the first void zone down. If he pops the first void zone down and he's not like hitting you against the wall at that point, it might screw up the positioning for later on. So you really want to get him over there like as quickly as you can, while still trying to get a bit of damage on him, because as I said, the damage in this phase is important. And then you just want to get as much damage onto him as you can with those cooldowns up until he does the first seed on you. So as you can see, just watch the footage on screen, but I will just essentially be always on the very, very edge of the void zones on the ground, and just like backpedaling away, and like you'll see the boss kind of like follow me in very, very small increments. That's just how you optimize space the most. But he's going to put the seed on you. Now, every single seed you deal with exactly the same, and that is as soon as he puts it on you, I try and just like re-rupture the boss before I have to run. So I will like make sure you can kind of tell when the seed's coming. It will usually be a good way actually to tell is by your symbols of death. So you'll pop your symbols with your cooldowns, and then just as your symbol's coming back up, he's going to probably seed you, and then you'll have symbols ready for the ads. So you have a symbols and a shuriken storm ready for the ads. So it's like every minute the seed comes, which spawns the 3 Voidwalkers, and you're going to be running off with sprint as far as you can. And then as soon as they spawn, you can look at your debuffs to check it. It goes like 3, 2, 1, and it'll spawn the Voidwalkers. Then I pop Shuriken Tornado and symbols, and then I just Black Powder at 6. So if I have combo points remaining, I'll let the first Shuriken Storm go through, Black Powder, then I'll let 2 go through, Black Powder, then I'll let 1 go through with my own Shuriken Storm, Black Powder, and then you just finish off the Voidwalkers. Again, make sure you switch to Crippling Poison. If you forget like me, then do it after you run away with the seed. Preferably do it while he's doing the RP between phase 1 and phase 2. So once those Voidwalkers are dead, you want to instantly run back to the edge of the room. I go counterclockwise. You can go clockwise if you want, but I always run it exactly back to the edge of the room, and you want to get like right into the corner as close as you can to the previous void zone that you dropped, right? And his positioning will probably be a bit scuffed because he'll run at you and then he'll have to run back. But if you get there quick enough, like if you take too long, he's going to run in this really awkward position, and it's going to screw over your positioning of the void pools for later. So you want to get back in the corner as quickly as you can, and then just carry on, and you essentially just repeat the fight then. So then I pop the next symbols on cooldown with the Shadow Dance, obviously, and then the next symbols will be when it's time to run away with the seed again. So then he'll put the next seed on me, you run away, you Shuriken Storm, symbols, kill them, sprint back to the corner. And you just keep doing that while backpedaling around the room, putting out as much damage as you can. And then when you notice that your Shadow Blades is coming up soon, it'll be the 3rd seed, and then you'll deal with the ads from that seed. And as you're running back, you want to obviously sprint back to the corner as quickly as you can. And that is when you'll Bloodlust and use the Potion of Unbridled Fury. And then you'll just be hitting the boss, and then you just use your next Shadow Blades as soon as it comes up with obviously your symbols and the Shadow Dance and everything like that. You want to pop your Bloodlust with the Potion of Unbridled Fury after the 3rd seed is all dealt with and you're back in position. You want to aim to have him around like 15%. He has a lot of HP, like 15 to 20%, and then he'll do the 4th seed on you. You have very, very, very limited space. You've got to be really, really quick at dealing with that one. This is where you should save your cloak, because you have less space, so you'll probably be pushed into a corner with it. The Voidwalkers will come, you do the Shuriken Storm, the Shuriken Tornado, and the symbols, but the ads might have a little bit of health left, and you have to follow them into the purple stuff on the ground, which really, really hurts and slows you. So this is where you want to pop your cloak, and to be able to follow them and put as much damage on them. If they get to the boss, by the way, they will heal him for 20%. So obviously that's a wipe. So you want to kill those last Voidwalkers, and then you want to back away as slowly as you can into the corner. And at 10%, he will enrage. That is when you pop evasion, and then you basically have to pray. I took spiritual healing potions and stuff like that. You can use healing potions. Firstly, they can save your ass in the first phase if you do mess up, and because those frostbolts do hurt. But yeah, I did pop a healing potion right at the end, and then I just had my cooldowns coming up. And honestly, I had so many times where I wiped to like 1%, 2%, 3% and stuff. But it's literally just like live or die in this very, very last like tiny patch of ground that you have until the final void stone swallows you up. And that's the ultimate enrage wipe. And obviously like he can just clap you because he really, really starts to hurt when he enrages at 10%. So that's when you evasion, and you basically hope that you can do the last 10% in the duration of your evasion. And if you can't, then you'll probably die to the floor. So that's pretty much it. Good luck. It's quite a tight DPS check. I felt like some of the pools I was playing really, really optimally in terms of like my rotation, and I just felt like the damage wasn't there, or he had way too much health and stuff. But you want to aim to try and hit like 800 DPS in the second phase, and then you should be like in a decent ballpark. If you're not getting close to 800 DPS, then you need to somehow find the damage, if that's like through gear, from like cheesing it and stuff like that. But I kind of expect Blizzard might tune this. Hopefully they won't over nerf it. I feel like if anything, they might take off like 3 to 5%, or like maybe just off its HP off the second part, but maybe just for rogues. I don't know, because like some classes have it easier than others. I don't know, but hopefully they don't nerf it too soon, if at all, because it's nice. It's finally nice to have a challenge, and I really, really felt that like sense of progression with this. Maybe some people like kill it way quicker than me or something, but I've not had that feeling of like, killing a mythic boss or killing something that I felt like was a reward, for a long time. So this was a really, really nice challenge for me, and yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. So hopefully you guys will have as much fun with it as I did. Feel free to stop by the stream. I did this live on stream, so I had people rooting for me and helping me out, and giving me suggestions and things like that all day. That was fun. Or all day, it took me a couple hours, but yeah, and I'm gonna do the outlaw ones and the assassination ones tomorrow. So hopefully I will be able to make like walkthroughs on those ones as well. But yeah, hopefully this video didn't go on too long. I'm going to try and cut it down. So enjoy the rest of your evenings. Good luck in the Mage Tower, and I will see you in the next video or on Twitch. And yeah, if you want to see how to play sub in the raid, then click on this video up here, because I just made a full guide for that. All right, see you.